It's so nice to see you, and so nice to meet you. When I heard the story, not even just your story, but just the general story of incarcerated firefighters that were, I was very surprised. And I'll run the thoughts that were going through my head, and I'll have you speak to them. One was, oh my God, the bravery that these folks who don't have their own liberty are showing on our behalf is astonishing. Right? To do that. Number two, I bet they're paying them shit. And is this indentured servitude? And is this being coerced? And then number three was, if I wanted to escape from prison, I would light a fire. How do they keep them from not running away in the middle of the fire? And then everybody being like, where's Slim Pete? And then they're like... So run this through. I mean, you were in this program. What is this? Why did you get into it? What made you get into the firefighting program from prison?
So honestly, around the time that I went to prison, it was overcrowding in California. So I ended up getting transferred to Arizona and then Mississippi. And I was in prison for about 20 plus months, close to 2 years. And
in Mississippi?
So I went to Arizona first and then Mississippi. So it's like that time of being out of state. You know, it was an opportunity for me to go back to California, see my family, because I didn't see them for that amount of time.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, obviously I heard the rumors around, like, it's better food. You know, you have a dormitory, you know, setting when you out there. It's not like you behind you in the cell. And you're not, or you can be able to get the most money that you can earn in prison, which is $1 an hour on fires, right? Which is
$1 an hour on fires is the most money.
Like, yeah, so you make about around $26 a day when you out there fighting a fire. So that's the most money you can make in prison.
Okay, so here's where it's going to get. Here's where it gets ugly for liberals, right? Because the liberal reaction is, how exploit the incarcerated but in prison, it's so bad that this is great. Is that it?
Yeah, this is the best. It's one of the best programs that California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation has, actually. Especially when it comes down to when most people, when they come home with $200 gate money, right?
Right.
And then have an opportunity to go to fire camp, you know, gain a family-winning career in the fire sector, right? That's like monumental. A lot of folks you can't even fathom of like never having a job like that, like having a career, you know, just having that felony, you know, in your record, right?
Right.
To being able to possibly have a 6-figure career, benefits retirement, and be able to take care of your family, you know, for a long time.
So, I mean, in some ways, it's a new model of rehabilitation. You know, I was reading that the recidivism rate generally is pretty high, 50%, sometimes 60%. The recidivism rate on those who have been inducted into this program is less than 10%. Is that correct?
I know that from our program.
Right. But that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It changed my life, honestly, John. It gave me an opportunity to know what a team kind of feel like. And when you're out there fighting fires and you have to rely on the next person, you know, it does take a lot. You know, it takes a lot of courage and being able to, like, you know, come together when it's all, you know, when it's the fire's raging and you out there on the line and you know, you're putting your life on the line. It does give you a sense of teamwork and partnership with folks that you probably never have had a communication with in a positive light when you out there in the streets, because you got to think about it. It's folks that's been in gangs, right?
Right.
Had, you know, some trauma in their life, and it's a lot of segregation within, you know, California prisons. There's a lot of politics in it.
Right.
So, you know, race, you know, is a big thing. And when you in fire camp,
so
you have
in prisons, it's very segregated to a white gang, Hispanic gang, a black gang.
Absolutely.
And firefighting, none of that.
Nah, you have to put that all to the side and you accrue. So you have a mixture of folks.
It's amazing. Did you not believe that you could do it? Is the idea that, people in that environment have been so lack the network and confidence and competence that goes along with things, that this is a revelation for themselves that I'm worthy. I'm actually worthy. That's the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so when you out there on those big, fire campaigns, you see signs that says, "Thank you, firefighters." And then when you actually, doing the work, the same thing that you would see a hot shot crew do, or like type 2 crew that'll do, like you doing pretty much the same work. So,
right.
You do feel that that sense of pride and purpose, and it gives you a way to be able to utilize the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you learned in fire camp to transition into the fire service professionally. And that's what the Forestry and Fire, Recruitment do. Like we provide.
So your organization tries to take that training, because you're not, if you go through the prison program, are you certified to fight fires at that point in California?
No, you still got this is more certifications that you would need in order for you to be able to be a professional firefighter.
Even though they've already put you in fires, you're already doing the job.
Right.
But they're saying to you, yes, you can fight the fires, but you're not qualified to fight the fires.
Yeah, it's some it's some things to that, definitely, right? But
right.
But it's definitely things to that, and that's
I love how diplomatic you're being.
Right, a little bit, yeah. So just being transparent and real, is definitely like it's a gatekeeping thing, I think, and a lot of folks don't understand the actual process, right? Like you have to have the certifications to be able to apply to these positions. You have to understand, what to put on a resume,
right?
How to apply to the job, like making sure that you read everything, right? And then.
But they train you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you get the training.
They don't just get prisoners and go.
Like, come on, let's go.
All right.
Yeah, they give you minimum training. They do. But
is there anybody in there like for arson? They're on there, and you're like, "Hey, Phil, what would you do in this situation?"
Right? Nah.
You're not allowed to, I would think, if you.
Nah, you can't have arson, and you can't have, like I said, you can't.
Hey, it could be the dumbest question I've ever asked.
In the sex crime, that's one of the two major things.
Right.
I think they're trying to revisit some things around certain violent crimes.
Okay.
I heard, but they're trying to, evaluate. One of my best friend and mentor. Ralph Diaz, he would kill me, and Fred Money.
Oh, don't worry, he won't see this.
Right? They'd tell me that if I was rogue or not, but it's definitely, they have some requirements for you to be able to be a firefighter. For
the prisoners, how do they view that bargain? That bargain of, look, the state exploits prison labor. I mean, I think that's just straight down the line.
Common fact.
Common fact.
Yeah, that's a common fact. Yeah.
And the penalties on felony makes it almost impossible for people to reintegrate into, like, our prison system, as as you have experienced.
Right.
Is and obviously, like, I'm not a sociologist or anything, but I think the word is.
I love you, man. I love you, John.
No, but it is true.
Right.
So how do they console each other in that? How do you guys talk to each other about what this opportunity means and what the system is doing to you guys while that's all happening?
You ready for the real deal, Holyfield? Be honest with you, I didn't know what the I was getting myself into.
Really?
They say fire camp. I'm a kid from the inner city. Like fire camp, around a camp, like.
You thought,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know.
You thought you had gotten into a program.
Right. I didn't know.
Like, you were going to make s'mores.
Right. Right. I didn't know. Like, honestly, like, it wasn't like, oh, you're going to be on the front lines. You're going to be fighting fire. You're going to carry this pack. You're going to be having this tool.
And it's dangerous.
Right. You're going to be working 24-hour shifts. You're going to be doing, like, I'm like, what? Like,
that's wild.
Fighting fire. Like, and when I first got to camp, and it was like, here, gave my equipment, and we start hiking. I'm like, it was like, yeah, here's these boots. And I'm like, I'm used to wearing Nikes, right? Like, like boots. Like, okay,
right.
then I get the boots, and okay, and they give me a pack and a tool, and we hiking. I'm like, man, I got, I need an asthma pump around here. Right. I'm like, whoa, like this is intense. But I end up talking to one of my captains, and he was like, Ramey, you're one of the youngest dudes on the crew, and you're the slowest one, dude on the crew, right? And I'm like, you know, just being from the inner city, you know, that, in so many words, he was like, you calling me a, you know, a sissy in this sense, right?
A little soft.
You
I got to tell you, when you were going there, I really thought you were going to be like, he pulled me aside and he said, I like you, son. You've really got something. I can't believe he pulled you aside and he's just like, what the man? Get off you.
Right.
How long did it take you to acclimate to this, and how long was the training?
So to answer the second question first, so the training was about a couple of weeks, just like physical training that you get, and then you go into like a classroom setting where you get the S190. I know a couple of people are going to kill me for this, but it's the entry level position or entry certification for wildland fire behavior. And then from there, you kind of like get a pack and you got to make sure you hike within a certain amount of time. And then once you complete that, then you're eligible to go to a fire camp. That was when I was, you know, there in 2012.
So you guys are wildland
firefighters,
certified firefighters. This is, and very different from like what LA County, urban fire, residential fire. So your role in this is more in those areas where maybe the chaparral is, or where the wilderness stuff is. Is that generally where the incarcerated guys?
Yes. So it's a couple of things. So you got, so their main objective is they pretty much train and deploy folks that's incarcerated to fight wildland fires. And then when you're not fighting fires, you out there doing fire prevention work or projects within the community. So that's one of the pluses too, is like you're not actually in the cell, you're actually in the community doing different, you know, work or whatever. It could be a project, you know, could be laying, you know, cement somewhere. You could be, you know, cutting brush, or you can do weed abatement.
And these are necessary jobs that they do have trouble finding candidates for and people for. You know, it's been so interesting, and I wonder how you sort of process this in your head, but this idea of like DEI, like, oh, the Los Angeles fire only happened because she's a lesbian. Like, like, you're on the other side of that where you're like, we want to get into this business. There are a lot of gatekeepers that keep us out, but boy, we're capable.
Right.
And how do you reckon that?
So I'm a doer, right? So when I first was in fire camp, obviously it was a transition for me mentally, emotionally, you know, spiritually. And, you know, I grew to love it, and I fell in love with it. And it was that one thing in my head. It was like, man, like, I want to do this. I want to do this as a career. I want to make this happen, right? And me and my co-founder, Brandon Smith, you know, we was talking one day, and it was like, look, man, you know, you want to be able to do it. I want to do it. Let's figure this out, you know, and be like the modern day Harriet Tubmans of the fire service, right?
And underground fire camp. Right. Because you knew that generally those jobs are, you know, connections play a large part in them, and it's relatively homogenous in those areas.
Right.
And it was going to be tough to break through.
Yeah, and just the cultural thing too, and understanding that, you know, you're going to have to do, you're going to put in the work. You got to make sure that you understand the culture, understand how to be a professional, because you got a lot of folks that consider people that's been incarcerated that's zeros, right? And then when you look at them as a hero, it's like a public nuisance and a public servant. Like that kind of like doesn't mix, or you know, prison and public service don't mix. And you have to change that narrative with people, because I remember when I was actually, I went to my first pretty much like month on my job with Cal Fire, and one of my captains was like, hey, we went on this fire, I was cutting with the saw and stuff. He was like, man, you did a pretty good job with that. Like, where did you learn that from? Like usually folks like myself learned that in camp, right? And I was like, you know, I kind of shied away from it. I worked for the Forest Service first, so it was like, you know, I kind of had that kind of spiel, but I wanted to make sure that they looked at me as a human being first, and not just based off of what, you know, my previous experiences were when I was in prison.
It's incredibly impressive, and maybe what's the most impressive thing about it is that you took that knowledge and you took that experience and you have created this organization to make sure that you keep the ladder down for people, the fire ladder, to help other people up. And I love that prison to public service road, because so often in this country, it's public service to prison. That's a political thing. It goes the other way. It's so good to meet you. Chief Roy